And welcome again to the Barry Foster Show from the Ridge Florist Studios. Glad to have you with us. And in our racing series, we have an old friend, a guy who has some long experience in Sebring, our friend Bruce Behrens. Bruce, good to have you with us, my friend.
Thank you, Barry.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got to race at Sebring. And you got here by knowing a guy who was one of the legendary pioneers, a scorer, Joe Lane.
That's right. In 1963, I met Joe and Marge Lane up in New York at Bridgehampton at a race, and I was invited by them to come down and be part of their scoring team.
So did you know anything about Sebring before then? Had you heard of it, or?
I certainly had heard of it. I had Sounds of Sebring, the 33 and a third RPM record, and we all used to listen to that. And it was in 63 and 4, it was still very young, but very famous.
How was it being a scorer in 1963? Did you use the big books, and how many cars did you keep track of?
We were each given 2 cars to score. We were right at the turn just before the front straight. There was a big, long, rectangular building, and we just sat right at windows and kept track of our cars.
So how long was your shift to do that?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Probably 3 to 4 hours, and we had to write everything down. You know, there was no computers or anything that we had then. All the scores were just at a long table.
So before or after your shift, did you get a chance to go out and walk around and kind of enjoy the ambiance of Sebring?
We did, and that's when you got the real flavor of the race, the teams, the people involved, and the cars.
Well, back in those days, the paddock was just pretty much grass, and I guess if you had a tent, you were kind of a high-dollar operation. It must have been really interesting to see that kind of an operation for a 12-hour race.
It was. In fact, 2 years ago, I went to the race here at Sebring, and I'm just amazed at the electronics. It's just, you walk into each pit, and the electronics is just unbelievable. There's so much difference between the way we used to race and racing now.
So you went from being a scorer, and then you went to being a turn worker, is that right?
I was a scorer here in 64, and then in 65, I was a scorer, and then in 66, I met Roger Penske at the 24 Hours of Daytona, and then came down to Sebring as part of his team as their gopher.
Now you had a kind of an interesting, what they call a cute meet, an interesting story to when you met Roger Penske. It was all over some car parts.
Yes, I had seen him race his last race as a driver in Nassau, and he came to Daytona in January of '66 with a friend of his, George Winterstein, in their Corvette. They hit the wall in the middle of the night, and I just happened to have a Corvette, very much like, you know, with the same radiator that they had, and they took the Corvette out of my car, put it in their car, finished the race, and won their class.
And then they gave you the radiator back?
They put the radiator back in the car and invited me to come to Sebring as their gopher.
So now, when you came to Sebring as a part of the Penske team, what do you remember? Any of the things you had to do? Did you have to go get lunch or go get car parts, or?
I went and got meals for them. I had to go get tires in Tampa, and just whatever they needed. I went out, you know, parts. I can't remember specifically any other parts, but I knew I went and got tires in Tampa. Did
you, either as a scorer or as a turn worker or as a working with the Penske team, did you have any funny or unusual things? Sebring is the home of funny and unusual stories. Did you have anything happen to you while you were here?
I can't think of anything specifically.
Now from that, you actually got into, you came from drag racing, and then you got into road racing.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, I got into drag racing and did very well in Street Eliminator in the National Hot Rod Association, but then wanted to do what Roger Penske was doing, and they were into Trans Am by 1968. So I called Roger and told him that I would like to race at the 12-hour race, and he asked me to have a car there in 10 days, and we set a car up on a trailer, and he prepared it, and that's the car that we entered in March of '69.
So, but this wasn't a prepared race car. This was a car off the lot that you financed through GMAC and sent up to the Penske shop to have it outfitted.
Well, it was off the showroom floor, and we sent it to Penske. Now, they prepared it for race because it had to go through tech inspection and meet several standards. So it was race ready.
So this was a Camaro that you raced?
Yes, 1969 Camaro Z28.
So who were your co-drivers then?
John Tremblay. I didn't actually drive. I was just the team owner and manager. John Tremblay and Bill McDill were and Vince Gimondo. Bill McDill ran in 27 different Sebring races.
Wow.
He's one of the top 5 racers, I think.
Now, when you came down, how many years did you race at Sebring?
We raced in 69, 70, and 71. In 69, we blew a motor with 20 minutes left, but we were still scored as having finished 22nd. In 1970, we had problems with our tires, and so I think we finished 18th or something overall. In 1971, we won our class and finished 13th overall.
Oh, nicely done. Was Sebring, that was back in the years when it was still on the runways? Was it as bumpy then as it is now? And
very much so. Since then, they've eliminated the Webster turn and improved the track significantly.
Did you have problems with things vibrating off, or did the drivers complain about the bumps in the night?
Yes, we ran out of front brakes about 10:30 in 1971. So we were driving the last half an hour with no front brakes.
So each year that you raced, you did better. Was there a learning curve? He said, next year we're going to try this and make it run better?
I think so. I think in all of racing that happens. You go out and you use a certain rear end calculation, and you adjust from there.
Did you have a chance to talk with other teams? Because
yes.
in those days there was not as much factory support. There was a lot of privateering. Did you have a chance to talk with them and kind of help you dial in the cars?
Yes, we did. And as a matter of fact, we shared parts with other cars. Sometimes we wouldn't have a car part that somebody else would have, and they would just loan it to us. Didn't charge us a thing. We didn't have to replace it. It was just it was a real camaraderie.
I know that in your drag racing years, you were able to use the right kind of. You had, I think, Champion spark plugs. I saw the ad with Champion on there. Were you able to kind of leverage that to get parts for your cars for this 12-hour race?
Yes, we worked with Holly carburetors, and in fact, Smokey Unick, the great engine builder out of Daytona, we considered having Smokey build a motor for us. We eventually went with Traco. California.
Is it true that I've heard it said that 12 Hours of Sebring is tougher than 24 at Daytona? You've raced both tracks. Do you think that's a true statement?
I think that's very true in many respects. The grind, as you mentioned earlier on the car, with the bumpy asphalt, really takes a toll at Sebring. At Daytona, it's the length and endurance. In 1970, it was 23 degrees, and we stayed up all night. I've never experienced anything like that before in my life.
Wow. I was does the weather, Sebring can be hot, it can be cold, it can be rainy, it can be dry, all in the same weekend. Did the weather cause any problems or give you any advantages when you were racing?
We didn't have any problems, but in 65? The great rain at Sebring.
Oh yeah.
Where the Austin Healy Sprice would be driving past Jim Hall's chaparral waving. That was kind of fun to watch.
You said you, as a scorer and as a team owner, you had your chance to go through the pits. Did you make any friendships? I mean, I know that you had a great friendship with Roger Penske and running up on him at different years at Sebring. Did you have a chance to meet others that you made friends with?
Yes, in drag race, a guy met Dick Smothers, and of course Dick went on to drive in the Corvette, and we became very close friends. I actually got to see a Dick Smothers show in my living room with Dick sitting right next to me.
That must have been really incredible.
Very fun.
And so, as a team owner, was it really expensive to run? I mean, now it's millions of dollars just to field a car. Was it expensive back then to field a car at Sebring?
In 1969, we ran 2 cars, and total expenses was about $30,000. Today, you could buy half a motor for $30,000.
That is now you ran Daytona, you ran Sebring, you ran the Glen. Did you? Were those IMSA years? No, those were before the IMSA years.
Yeah,
yes?
it was just before IMSA. It was 1969.
So was there a series that you ran with them, or did you just race like the Glen because it was the Glen?
We ran at Watkins Glen because it was a Trans Am race. That's the professional pony cars, as they used to call them. But we ran in Sports Car Club of America's A Sedan, a whole series of races in the Southeast. We won the Southeast and finished 2nd and 7th in the 1969 American Road Racing Champions, A Sedan.
Yeah, Sebring began as an international sports car race. It is now an international sports car race. But during the Trans Am years, it was really a lot more American muscle cars. Did that give you any kind of an advantage to, or a disadvantage racing against, your peers, if you will?
No, I don't think it was an advantage or disadvantage, but it guided me towards wanting to do what I was watching on the track. I wanted to be in that Trans Am category.
Did you ever want to drive in the 12 hours? Did you ever decide I'd like to get in there and try it?
I did. I went to one driver school. I never got a chance to complete a second driver school because we sold the cars after 1971's win at Sebring.
Have you driven ever on the 12-hour track, either during practice or qualifying or since or before? Did you ever have a chance to take your car around the track?
Not at Sebring. I've driven the Sebring track, but not at high speed. But at Daytona, Mark Donahue, the Penske Javelin driver in 1970, drove me around Daytona. I was hanging onto the roll bar.
Now, having been both a drag racer and a road racer, do you have a preference of the two, or do you like them both about the same? Or
They're different categories of racing and different ups and downs. And I was lucky to meet Don Garlitz and lovely Linda Vaughn, Miss Hearst Golden Shifter, and a lot of the Ronnie Sox and Martin, Bill Grumpy Jenkins in drag racing. But I got to meet Mario Andretti and Pedro Rodriguez in road racing, and Mark Donahue. So they're just two wonderful avenues of racing.
And you seem to be in the right place at the right time for a lot of things. Like you had breakfast with Mario Andretti, totally unplanned, right?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, I just pulled up. Back then we had a Howard Johnson's, and I went into the Howard Johnson's and sat down at the counter, and the guy to my left got up and left, and another guy sat down, and I was just reading the newspaper or eating breakfast, and the waitress asked the guy to my left, he said, "Do you know what you want for breakfast?" And he started telling her, and I knew right away it was Mario Andretti. So I got to have breakfast with Mario.
So did you strike up a conversation with him, talking about the racing?
Of course.
Did he give you any did you kind of pick his brains, like what are the tough parts of the course? How do you handle this? How do you handle that?
No, but I got an invitation to come up to Indianapolis and be their guest and take a tour of the Indianapolis Speedway, which I did 2 years later.
With Andretti?
Yes.
That must have been
not with Mario, but with his family.
That's an incredible thing. And you ran up on the executive vice president of NASCAR?
Yes.
How did that work out?
Well, we both went to the same college.
Oh, okay.
And so I was up for my 50th anniversary reunion, and that's when I met my friend at Daytona Speedway.
and you had a chance to go up now, in your time now, do you have any notions of doing anything more with racing? You've collected quite a collection of books and information about both drag racing and road racing. Have you thought about doing anything more in racing, driving cars, riding in cars, sponsoring cars?
I'm 82 now, Barry, so I've had a long run, and I'm just very happy to have had the experiences, and it's why I'm living here in Sebring, is because of my early time in the 60s.
So what would you if you look back and said, what are some of my biggest accomplishments in racing, either in drag racing or racing at the 12?
Well, I think the number one accomplishment was winning the touring class in 1971 and finishing 13th overall. And then I would say the Watkins Glen race in 1969, when we ran 2 cars and finished 7th and 9th. Those are probably the two of the highlights.
Was there anything that looking back you say, I wished I would have done this, or I wished I would have done that? Is there any unfinished business that you wish you'd been able to accomplish?
No, I think I would like to have won the 1969 race at Sebring in the touring class, but we lost a motor 20 minutes before the end of the race and couldn't win. But that's how the Lord keeps you humble.
Yeah. So now you were running. Were you leading class when the motor went out?
Yes.
What did they say? What failed? What part of the engine failed?
We put a rod through the block.
Well, that'll slow you down. And Bruce, it's an incredible collection of information you have here, and an incredible career both in drag racing and in IMSA road racing, and of course at the 12 Hours. I really appreciate you spending some time with us and telling us a little bit about it.
Well, it's my pleasure, Barry. I'm glad to make a contribution to your great books.
Well, yeah, and before we leave, I do want to ask, when you walked around, did you get a chance to go through the Green Park, go through the fan areas and sit down and talk with fans and enjoy yourself, or was it mostly business while you were there?
No, in 1970, when Mario Andretti won the race by about 30 seconds, beating Steve McQueen in the Porsche, I left my pits and went out into the Green Park chicane just to watch Mario drive the Ferrari that eventually won the race. He had only first, third, and fifth gear, I think. He didn't have all of his gears. He was losing his brakes, and he ran lap times within 2 seconds of what he had qualified his other car. And I just think that's the most incredible driving I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was one of the most incredible drives I've ever seen. Bruce, again, I really, really appreciate your time as we try to chronicle the history of Sebring. You've been listening to the Barry Foster Show from the Ridge Floor Studios in beautiful downtown Avon Park, and we'll see you next time.